Is it humanly possible to gain this incredible amount of balance and strength in only 30 days? Considering this skill usually takes advanced athletes around 8 to 18 months to learn, I had a behemoth of a mountain to climb, but I was ready for the challenge. So I got to work. This is what my one-arm handstand attempts and holds were looking like on day 0. So I had no idea where to start, so I had to call in some reinforcements. So we seeked out the help of someone who's actually been on the channel before, and no, it's not the bar Kage, not this time, and that guy was Pat Chads. So I sat down with Pat, also known as Pat Chadwick, and he taught me how he was able to learn the one-arm handstand so good he was able to do it in a competition and win. He was also nice enough to send us some tutorial videos, so I knew exactly what the progression should be looking like before I even attempted them. Those will be late in the video, and I'll explain how each of the progressions work. The first progression that I had to conquer was weight shifts. So weight shifts is this progression where you do a regular handstand, straddle, and then you shift your weight from side to side. So you're getting about 60% of your body weight onto one arm and then switching to the other side and doing the same. And for each progression, we were holding up to 10 seconds and then I could move on. So this was the first mountain to climb. Now that I had actually done some attempts of the progression I needed to do and tried the one-arm handstand, on day 1 I was a lot more confident and I knew exactly what I had to do, so I got to work. I did 20 minutes only of one-arm handstand training each day, and on this first day I focused solely on weight shifts. I had to get up to that 10 seconds before I could move on, so there's no point trying other progressions and rushing it. I focused only on weight shifts in that straddle handstand. During the last 10 minutes of my training on this day, I started to feel like I was twisting and falling out the handstand. This is because I was getting more fatigued, and looking back now, I could see that my legs were not completely stacked over my shoulders as they should be. I was not in that perfectly straight straddle handstand, and that was why I kept falling down. This meant that day 3 was mainly me trying to kick up into a straddle handstand and failing. I'm not kidding guys, my whole 20 minutes was just me kicking up into a handstand, and I really had to overcome this issue with fatigue and being tired if I was going to get this one-arm handstand in only 30 days. We were able to kick up into a handstand today, and I was way more comfortable with the weight shifts. Although my arms weren't completely straight and my shoulders weren't completely elevated and tucked up by my ears, that is what I was going for. And that little hurdle where I couldn't kick up into a handstand because I was fatigued was kind of over. I had the wrist conditioning and shoulder conditioning now, so I could do longer sets of handstands. Now it was time to conquer the next progression. Balancing in the straddle handstand with your supporting hand on its fingertips. I was also trying to keep my hands really close together and my shoulders properly elevated and tucked up by my ears. Those were the 2 cues I was really using to help with my form. However, on day 9 we encountered 2 more issues. The first issue was that I didn't know whether the floor or parallettes were better for learning the one-arm handstand on. And the second issue was that when I try and shift my weight over so I could pop my hand up onto its fingertips, this movement of popping my hand from flat to on its fingertips would knock me off balance almost every time. It was almost impossible to get onto my fingertips because I'd just lose balance and fall. Now with that first issue, whether I should use the floor or parallettes, I talked to Pat Chads about this and he said I just had to pick one and focus on that so I could be consistent with my training and have consistent sets. So I opted for the floor. For the floor, I was getting a lot more good sets on the floor than parallettes. Parallettes was a little bit weird for me, so I stuck with the floor for the rest of this challenge. Now after 2 more days of just incredibly depressing training where I just wasn't getting up onto my fingertips without falling and losing balance, something incredible happened. On day 11, I found out it was way easier if I placed my hands in the position I wanted them to be in while I was in the handstand first and then kick up into the handstand. This was crazy. For some reason, this was way easier for me and I could almost instantly hold 3 fingers on my supporting hand. I talked to Pat Chads about this and he said, you know, I've never seen this before, but if it works, I guess. This was incredible, guys. I was able to solve the issue I was having, so I was back on track making progress, and I was basically able to skip the fingertip progression, take 2 fingers off, and now I was on 3 fingers already. So I continued my training like this, placing my hands in the position I wanted them to be in first and then kicking up into the handstand. That worked better for me. Now this is when I got to the next sticking point, which was the 3 fingers on the supporting hand. Over the last 3 days I didn't make much progress at all, and I was starting to get a little bit anxious. The halfway point was quickly approaching, and if I couldn't get over this progression, I mean there was no way I was going to get the one arm handstand only holding myself on 3 fingers. We also had another disaster, guys. Because of all the one arm handstand training while training the planche, my forearms started to get a little bit overtrained, a little bit over fatigued, and I got this shooting pain up my forearm and this burning pain when I was in the one arm handstand progressions. So it really limited the amount of sets I could do each day. Even though I was only doing 20 minutes of training each day, it hurt like hell when I was in it. In my forearms, it completely burnt, but I really just pushed through the pain because we only had 30 days and I was not about to quit this challenge yet. I even bought a massage gun, a trigger ball, and I would ice my forearms really just to help with my recovery, and this did help a lot. It was able to be manageable so I could still do my sets and my planche training, but you know, it wasn't getting much better, so I did have to kind of wean off training a little bit, kind of decrease the intensity of my sets a little bit. So now we hit the halfway point. I had this forearm injury and I was stuck on this 3 finger supported hold still, so we had to call in Pat Chadwick because I wasn't really sure what to do at this point.
The next step is to start, try to push off a little bit if you can. Shift your weight even more to the side and just push off slowly, push off, stab it off. Because I noticed for some people, right, I see some people, like for example me, I start pushing off with 1 finger, but I see other people, they even push off with 4 or 3,
Yeah.
So everyone's different. So I'd say you can start pushing off now. Just go on the side, tap off for a split second, then come back. So that's the next step.
Over the next few days of training, I also noticed that my right arm and shoulder were a lot better at balancing and a lot stronger. So I sort of focused more on this arm as the arm I was going to use to get the one arm handstand in 30 days. But I still trained my left, of course. Over the next few days, the 3 finger supported one arm handstand hold started to get a little bit easier very slowly. I was able to go from this wide base 3 finger hold to kind of bring my fingers together, so it's a lot more narrow, a lot more balance required, and it meant that my other arm that I was balancing on had to be pushed and completely elevated with my shoulder if I was going to be in the correct position. This meant it was way harder, but it did mean I was getting stronger. Now guys, in the last few days of training, the last 10 days, there's not too much to say really. I got really good at that 3 finger supported hold, bringing those fingers together where it's hard to balance. I'm trying to get good at that. And then also the dabbing on and off. I was still struggling to get better than 3 reps on each arm. So really at this point, I was just kind of plateauing again. Now because I was still plateauing so close to the end of the challenge, it didn't really look likely like I was getting this one arm handstand. If you could see my full set, really what it looked like was me trying to kick up into a straddle handstand and failing most of the time, and sometimes I would catch a good one and then be able to do my set. But then after a couple days, it just clicked. A solution came to me. So instead of trying to balance on 2 fingers on my pointer and middle finger, I was now balancing on my pointer and my thumb, which was way easier. I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier. I could have saved so much time, and now I was on 2 fingers. It was way harder to balance and I felt a lot more progress. This felt way closer to the one arm handstand. We were so close now, so close, but only 5 days left. I was now no longer falling backwards in the 2 finger one arm handstand supported hold, which was my biggest issue. So now I wasn't plateauing again. I was making progress, but now because I wasted so much time, I didn't think of this earlier, I was even closer to the end of the challenge. There wasn't too much else for me to do now. As we approached day 30, I focused more and more on dabbing on and off to get that proprioception of being in the one arm handstand for just a couple seconds, and then also focused on that 2 finger handstand, pointer and thumb. So we got closer and closer to day 30, I had to try and just go for dabbing my hand on and off and just going for short bursts of the one arm handstand hold, just seeing if I could get that proprioception. I actually had to end the challenge on day 28 because my forearms were in such bad shape that I just had to take a deload and stop training, and then just like that was it. That was all my attempts. I had to see now if all that time, all those progressions, all those attempts, all those kicking up into handstands, the forearm pain, I had to see if it was all worth it. It was time to find out. So guys, we didn't hold the one arm handstand, but I think you can see by my face, I'm so happy with how I did in this challenge. Never did I think I'd be able to hold myself on one arm with only one finger supporting myself. So if I had the time to execute it, you know, I might get it in 1 or 2 days when my forearms are better. So could I say that I've learned the one arm handstand? Anyway guys, I'll let you guys decide. How did I do? Was it a fail? Was it a dub? You let me know in the comments down below. But that was the whole point of this video guys, not to glorify getting a skill quickly, that's not the point. It's to show you guys that if you put in the effort and challenge yourself, you can accomplish way more than you think. And you better believe that I'm going to carry on training and get this one arm handstand, and when I do, when I've got it down, I'm going to make an ultimate guide on how to one arm handstand. But damn, this was a good journey.